Good evening. Actually, the story of Sundaram Fasteners goes far beyond 1966 when it started actually production. You can't start a plant out of a vacuum. You need a base, you need values. These values are foundations. Actually, values for the company, for any company, is like character for an individual. Unless you have basic good character, it's very difficult to justify your actions and succeed in life. I always tell myself that character for an individual or a company is one that you should be able to stand on any podium in public and say, this is what I have done. If at any point of time you feel that you cannot say that, then it's bad in character or bad for the company. So these values that we see today, some of them visible by its symbolism, some of them are interwoven so intricately that sometimes you even fail to notice them. They are so embedded in the fabric of any TVS company. But it pervades all TVS companies in one avatar or the other. They are the foundation for an enduring company. Companies, as you know, come and go. They are here today, gone tomorrow. But if you look at TVS, which started in 1912, and it's now over 90 years old, and has survived now 3 generations and going strong in the 4th generation, you have to concede that there is something unique about it. Not many companies succeed after 3 generations. There is a famous saying, gumboots to gumboots in 3 generations. Because that saying comes from the fact that one generation builds, thinks, builds, envisions, they are visionaries. And the second one consolidates, and the third one squanders, because you're born with a silver spoon in your mouth. But the fact that TVS Group has endured more than 3 generations and still growing shows that it has got some unique character, some value system that is so fundamental for all surviving companies, like Tata's, for example. People disappear, companies disappear because of lack of energy. Somewhere along the line, people lose their vision of where they want to go. The energy gets sapped in so many other things that are not core to business that they are driving. They lack guiding principles. If you do not have guiding principles, the guiding principles are like railway tracks. It keeps you on course. And if you lack that, you are apt to go all over the place, and over a period of time, your destination disappears in your mind. I'm saying all this because these are fundamentals on which Sundaram Fasteners was built. So I need to elaborate a little bit more. As you all probably know that for a long, long time now, TVS has stood for trust, value, and service. Trust is something you cannot mandate, you cannot legislate, you cannot purchase. It is something that you earn. It cannot be bought under any circumstances. It is something that is voluntarily given to you, which you keep as a trustee, or you keep it in trust. I want to give you one example, just to give you the values of TVS. I have had the privilege of knowing my grandfather. I have at least known the TVS Group companies, TVS Group, for the last, even though I may have been a little child at that time, but at least from 1941, 42. Before that, my memory is that of a child. But I remember my uncles and my father telling me that there are experiences which proved beyond doubt to the public at large the character fabric on which TVS is built. I'll just give you one example. During war years, from 1939 to 1942, 1939 to 1945, there was a tremendous shortage of engines, for example, because all engines were diverted to war effort. And you had to have an allocation to get these engines. And TVS was given these engines on an allocation basis. And let us say you got these engines at that time for maybe 3,000 rupees or 4,000 rupees. These are, I'm talking about full engines for a truck. TVS used to sell them at, buy them at 4,000 and sell them at 4,400. Normal 10% margin. People used to take delivery of these engines at 4,400 and sell them outside to other customers at anywhere from 15,000 to 20,000 rupees because there were a tremendous amount of shortage. You just could not get engines for love or for money. So it was the same thing for spare parts. A lot of people have asked why TVS could have made a killing at that time, could have become a very rich company for a period of 5 years. But the answer that was always given was that if you did that, then there will be no difference between those companies and TVS. It's a very simple thing. And these kind of values endure. The people who bought engines at 5,000 and sold it at 20,000 have disappeared. Whereas customers keep coming back to TVS because once for all during that period, TVS established that the company can be trusted to give value for money. This is just one example I wanted to give you. But it's a very important example because the public must know at any point of time that it can be trusted to give value for money. And if at any point of time you take steps that cast a shadow on your character as a company or as values as a company, then you stand a chance of losing your customers. It's very, very important. Making the customer return with conviction has always been a very guiding, it's been a guiding principle for TVS. The customer comes into your shop, maybe for repairing his car, buying his spare parts. TVS always strives to make the customer return again and again and again and not go anywhere else. By its fair dealings, by its customer relationship, whatever it is. To achieve this kind of basic trust, TVS employed a very simple method, and that method is still followed in many companies, and that was direct communication with all the staff and the workers. I've seen my father communicate with his staff at a midnight meeting. It was called a midnight meeting because, as you know, TVS from 1940s till 1970s used to run a bus service in Madurai. They used to run something like 50 routes with about 300 buses. They were one of the biggest privately owned city bus services at that time. All buses used to return to the depot at midnight, latest by midnight. And that is a time when you got all the drivers, the conductors, the mechanics, the cleaners, the managers, everybody together. So my father used to go to the depot at 12 o'clock at night and used to address the workers. It used to be called midnight meeting. It was a very simple meeting. All he used to do was to tell them what TVS stood for, what are the values we practice, and how it is important for our business, and how we should make a difference in society. Over and over and over and over again, with different examples, different circumstances, but over and over again. I tell you this because when Sundaram Fasteners was started in 1966, I employed the same method. I used to address all the workers at least 3 times a year. And when it became multi-locational, I used to go to every location on New Year's Day or bonus day or Chairman's Award Day and talk about the values of Sundaram Fasteners or anything that mattered Sundaram Fasteners, that mattered to Sundaram Fasteners. Be it customer relationship, be it quality, be it TPM, be it China plant, be it liberalization, be it foreign direct investment, joint ventures, it does not really matter as long as you have a direct relationship, an eye-to-eye contact relationship with your workers and communicate to them over and over again. So you can imagine now I have been communicating with them from 1966. It's now almost 40 years. So at every point, at every location, everybody knows what Sundaram Fasteners stands for. It's as simple as that. One of the advantages of telling the truth all the time is that you don't have to remember what you said the last time. It's as simple as that. And when you say the truth all the time and put it across as it is, don't hide anything. There's nothing to hide. If you're doing badly, you say it, you're doing badly. If you're goofed up, you're goofed up. If you continue to do that, then over a period of time, they know that you tell the truth all the time. Then there develops a bond which is invisible, very tenuous bond to start with, but it becomes a very strong bond over a period of time that is called trust. And once you have the trust, and once you can tell them that this is where the company is going, and every time you show that the company will benefit from that, then you have indicated that trust. It is very important, this trust, because only when you have trust from the employees of the company can you succeed over a period of time with your vision. That vision is very important, because I'll come to that a little later. So policy communication with workers. Excellent IR. It has always been the cornerstone for TVS. It also comes from trust. IR is not an isolated kind of department which is looked after by the personnel officer or human relation officer. IR in TVS has always been a direct responsibility and an emotional responsibility of the top management. I always considered myself as the chief IR manager or HRD manager for Sundaram Fasteners, because I am responsible as the father of the company to see that the entire community of Sundaram Fasteners believes in something which is bigger than themselves, become a core of bigger than themselves, which is very important. I've also asked many times, if you take 2 brothers from the same family, brought up under very similar circumstances, very similar society, same school, same father and mother, everything exactly the same. One joins company X, the other one joins company Y. In company X, there is no problem, there are no strikes, there are no lockouts, there is no misbehavior, nothing. On company Y, there is constant strife and constant problem. One brother works with conscientiousness, the other brother goes on strike. Why is it like that? Finally, the answer is there's nothing to do with the worker. It's got everything to do with the management. The workers are like children coming with dreams in their eyes. They look to you for guidance when they first join the company. When an 18-year-old joins the company, he doesn't come with an idea of striking or going on strike. He comes there to see that he earns a salary and betters himself. To make him realize that dream is the privilege and the responsibility of the management. This is what has kept TVS going on a smooth IR relationship. Of course, all these things have got exceptions. The only thing that I always say is the difference between a very healthy body and not so healthy body is that it's not that healthy bodies don't suffer from fever or cold. They do, but they recover much quicker. Unhealthy bodies suffer permanent damage. From 1912 till 1994, 2004 now, the parent TVS organization has had one strike in 1948 for 3 days. So you can imagine. There is something in it. There's something in that kind of camaraderie building, or society building, or whatever it is. You take Sundaram Fasteners from 1966 to 2004, we are now 38 years old. We haven't had a single go slow or strike or any kind of IR problem. We never had to go for adjudication, nothing at all. Whereas you see strife everywhere else. So there is, it all comes from the worker believing that there is basic trust that pervades the company, that binds the company. It is also then reflected in the bringing the family together, where the children are recognized, the family is recognized. You must have heard about the kind of functions that we have for Ayuda Puja. It is not done without a purpose. It brings the entire family together in one place. The family becomes bonded with the company, where the company is located, how it works. The worker takes pride in showing the family how the equipment works, where he works, shows him what the layout of the company is like, what does the company manufacture. It's very important for the family to get involved in this. The other thing that TVS was very famous for was that, people talk about TPM now. People talk about lean manufacturing, people talk about 5S, all these kind of modern jargons. But in 1940s or 1930s, when there were no MBAs, there were no college graduates, there was no business school in India, there were no ideas about how to go about organizing something like a TPM. TVS has always done what TPM preaches today. This is borne out by the fact that all the buses that ran in Madurai, every bus used to come to every bus stop on time. People used to say that you could set your watch by the time that the bus arrived in the bus stop. You think about this, 1942, was 60 years ago, 62 years ago. How do you make drivers who have not even passed 8th standard, make mechanics who have never gone to a technical institute, make managers who are probably just SSLC passed or BCom or BA? How do you make this organization make every truck run without breaking down on the road? How do you make every truck come on time? How do you earn the trust of the Madurai public? And they're not just 1 or 2 buses, there are 300 buses every day. I have never seen a TVS bus standing on the middle of the road from 1942. So how is it done? Well, very simple. That you trained and trained and trained until the man knew exactly what he was doing, why he was doing, and how often it needed to be done. There was very rigorous schedules which mechanics followed, electricians followed, the drivers followed. The drivers were given training in driving, conductors were given training in courtesy on how to deal with the passengers. It was a simple thing, just running a bus service. It became so famous all over India that people used to say, why can't other companies do what TVS does? So I always tell myself, if running a TVS bus service can make ripples all over India as a model company, then why can't I make ripples just making a lowly product like bolt or nut? When you really look at a bolt or nut, it's just hardware, there's nothing there. It does not matter what you make or what you pursue. As long as it is done with efficiency, with conscientiousness, and with an eye on quality, you are bound to succeed. You don't have to worry about it. It doesn't matter. You don't have to make computers all the time to be recognized in the world. That's what I'm trying to say. You take YKK, zips. YKK commands more than 70%. They have got plants in some 70 countries all over the world. Everybody who wants quality zip wants a YKK zip. What is the zip? It's very simple. It's just a fastener. You take Stadler pencils. Every draftsman who has ever drafted engineering drawing, ask him what you would like. He would like a Stadler pencil. It's just a pencil. But you ask anybody, I want a Stadler pencil. Why? Because Stadler makes quality pencils. It's very simple. So it does not matter what you make, as long as you make it so that the customers want it. Customers respect it. The customers respect your company because you give them value for money and the vision for which the company stands for. That's what I'm trying to say. There was also no urge in TVS, as far as I know, to make quick money, as I told you about this war years, or evade legal demands. We met every legal demand, however painful it was. There was a time when, during Morarji Desai's time, when income tax was 97%, 97.5% actually, and wealth tax was 5%. So you paid 102% taxes. So what did you do? You ate out of your capital. You took money from your capital and paid your taxes. There's nothing to do. I mean, there was no saving. You earned 100 rupees, you paid 102 rupees taxes. That was considered, quote unquote, socialistic pattern of society. Rob the rich and make the poor poorer. Didn't go anywhere. I don't know where that money went. The money went into complete chaos of public administration. But TVS never grumbled. We paid. We paid the taxes. We paid for a long time. But at one point of time, there was relief. So there was voluntary corporate governance. That's what I'm trying to say. There was no corporate governance in those days in TVS. It was all self-imposed corporate governance, like self-imposed character building, self-imposed discipline, self-imposed quality standards, like running a bus service. Nobody asked you. I mean, if we ran an indifferent bus service, nobody cared a damn. I mean, you could run an indifferent bus service. I mean, buses could be late by 10 minutes. Who bothered? I mean, nobody bothered. But that was not TVS. That's what I'm trying to say. TVS was, if you ran a bus service, you ran it well. If you repaired a car, you repaired it well. You never cheated. You never stole spare parts. You never put substandard spare parts into the car. And the customer knew that if you drove the car into the TVS workshop, you always got value for money, and you can trust it. And if anything went wrong, you will get it completely free of cost. So these are, it may sound, you know, I can say all this is in 30 seconds, but these are the values on which TVS has been built over a period of 90 years. And it is something that truly runs in our blood. It's a genetic thing that makes TVS family members perform as they are, whatever they do. Whether they make brakes or wheels or brake linings or motorcycles or electronics or finance, whatever it is. You find a common thread of giving value for money to the customer, never taking the customer for granted, always getting the highest marks for customer service, highest quality at not a profitable price, correct price, what the customer perceives as correct price. The TVS growth may not be dramatic. I mean, a lot of people have asked me, why are you not like Reliance? Or why are you not like so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so? In every organization, like every individual, there is a comfort zone. And the minute you cross that threshold, you see amber light and you get alarm bells. That comfort zone is very important. If you work within the comfort zone, your company will be fine. The minute you cross the comfort zone of value systems of a company, then you have problems. You cannot sustain it, especially if you are genetically engineered. So TVS has grown within its limits, within its comfort zones. It may not have grown very rapidly, but it's certainly respected, emulated, applauded, and shown as a role model today. A lot of people used to tell me before 1990, in fact, before 1990, South never existed for most northern companies. South was something which was, temples and Kerala backwaters and Mysore Darbar and that kind of thing. Never known for engineering industry. Today, many foreign direct investment, foreign institutional investment, would any day put their money in a South Indian company than quote-unquote North Indian company. I'm not saying we are right, they are wrong. But there are fundamental values that drive a South Indian company. And I think TVS is a good example of that kind of drive. These are the basic fundamentals on which TVS is built up. Now I'll come to Sundram Fasteners. Because without this kind of background, you will not appreciate what Sundram Fasteners is all about. Now I can talk with a lot more personal knowledge of exactly what happened. People think Sundram Fasteners today, which is approximately 800 crores company, we were not born with a silver spoon in our mouth. In fact, in 1964, when I first started Sundram Fasteners, The total capital given to the company was 8 lakhs. That was all the money that was given. Because TVS had already stretched their finances in putting up Wheels India, Brakes India, Sundaram Clayton, and Lucas TVS, all within a matter of about 2 to 3 years. So they were very short of money. Before that, there was no manufacturing in TVS. It was all trading, running bus transport, tire retrading, bodybuilding. There was no manufacturing as such. The first manufacturing was started in 1960 in Wheels India, and then followed by Brakes India, Sundaram Clayton, and finally Lucas TVS. So whatever money they could find in TVS all went to these companies. So when Gopal's father, I was an apprentice in Wheels India under him in 1962. When he called me and said that, why don't you start a bolt nut company? It's such a fundamental product for engineering. You can't go wrong. To be very frank with you, I knew nothing about making a bolt nut. I'm not an engineer. I'm a literature student. I studied literature. So I have no idea about engineering. So what did I do? I bought books, engineering books, how to make bolts and nuts, what they call chipless machining, it used to be called, and started reading books, started talking to people. And we got a license from the government for 8 lakhs, nothing more. And within 8 lakhs, we juggled laboriously for a period of 3 months before we imported those machines from America. We didn't have a joint venture. Nobody knew how to make a bolt nut. So we had to get initially the machinery manufacturers to come and teach our staff how to make a cold form bolt and nut. Those days I used to go to work at 7 in the morning, come back at 7 in the evening, have dinner, have shower, and go back to work, and come back at about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. That was my typical day. And if at any point of time, if I came back at 5 o'clock, my father used to say, why, you are not well? You come back home. What's wrong with you? You should be at work at this time. The first year turnover for Sundaram Fasteners was 4 lakhs. Second year was 14 lakhs. Third year was 28 lakhs. Fourth year was 44 lakhs. Fifth year was 56 lakhs. That's it. On 56 lakhs, we made a profit of 2 lakhs for the whole year. So you can imagine the poverty in Sundaram Fasteners. Poverty is not the correct word. It's actually, the correct word is ennui. There was a total sense of depravity in Sundaram Fasteners. We used to look at every penny in Sundaram Fasteners because we just could not afford anything. People brought food from home. There was no canteen. Everybody worked. People were required to work 8 hours, but workers, managers, everybody worked 12 hours, 14 hours. Nobody asked whether this is the right thing or wrong thing. All that they thought was that if this is a good company, it is our company and we must build it. Nobody is going to build it for us. Anyway, we grew like that for 5 years in Ambattur Industrial Estate. It was a small-scale industry at that time. Many times, and even now I sort of, I'll give you a personal touch on this. The year we started manufacturing, going into manufacturing, the year after I got married. So you can imagine the kind of married life I had. Going to work at 7 in the morning, coming back at 7 in the evening, and then going back again, coming back at 2 o'clock in the morning. So my wife many times used to come with me to the factory. And I used to tell her that you just sit in the car, I'll go inside the factory, I'll be just there half an hour and then come back. And never used to come back for 4 hours. You got absorbed. You got absorbed because there's so many things to be attended to, so many people to talk to. Many, many times I have seen that when I come back, she had gone to sleep in the car. So I used to wake her up, drive back home at 2 o'clock in the morning, used to go to bed and get up at 6 o'clock and go back to work. What I'm trying to say is that you need that kind of commitment in the initial years. Why initial years? At any point of time, you need that kind of commitment. Because unless you show that commitment, I mean, we as managers show that commitment, you cannot expect anybody else to show that commitment. You have to lead from the front. That's the only way I have seen my elders lead, my father or my uncles. They all led from the front. You can't stand behind and ask your troops to advance. That is not the way TVS is run. You have to lead from the front. We moved to Padi in 1970-71, and we grew under very, very difficult circumstances, because in those days, as you know, the government was as strict as you could ever find a government. I remember the first time you asked for a license for raw material, we asked only for 36,000 rupees. That's all we wanted for our raw material, to import 36,000 rupees worth of raw material. And they gave us a license for 2,800 rupees and expected us to produce and serve the automotive industry. That is, and if you wanted a pump to be replaced, you had to go and sit in Delhi and explain what this pump was all about, why it cannot be found in India, why it has to be imported. The number of times I've gone to Delhi between 1960 and 1990 is, I cannot even count. I mean, there were probably about at least 10 to 15 times a year, and you can multiply it by 30 years. Nothing for nothing. Totally non-value added trips. That's the way government worked. So what it made you resolve to see that the old TVS values came into force, and they why import anything? Repair it. That's how TVS values were built up. During war years, you never got spare parts, so you reconditioned spare parts. That's how the TVS workshop was born. You could not get petrol, you made a charcoal plant. All TVS buses ran on charcoal, on producer gas in those days. TVS always innovated. You couldn't find tires, so you retreaded tires. That's how TVS Sundaram Industries was born. This is all because of necessity, out of necessity during the war years. The war shortage taught TVS many skills. And I think those skills were passed on, and maintenance has always been a great skill in TVS companies. We worked very hard. I mean, as Gopal in passing pointed out, that when we were having a turnover of 50 lakhs, our biggest competitor, Gaskin Williams, had a turnover of something like 25 crores. And Fittite Nuts and Bolts had a turnover of something like 7 or 8 crores. So big companies. But today they are not there. Gaskin Williams is not there. Fittite is not there. All gone. Sundram Fasteners is there. Brings me back to the point that if you want a company to sustain itself over a period of time, you have to have long-term goals. Why did Gaskin Williams die? Because the management had no vision. They didn't realize that they could no longer keep making everything to British standards. Very simple. When Telco came to them and said, can you make all these things to metric standards? They said, no, we are a British company, we'll make it only according to British standards. We lost a customer. They thought Telco was an exception, but Telco was the norm. Fittite came in, they made metric standards, they prospered, they did well. Then what happened? The father worked very hard, the sons came in, squandered all the money. It disappeared. So it's not enough you start a company, you must know how to hold it together. That is the most important part of it all. And that comes only with value systems. That comes only with trust. You must, at all point of time, consider yourself as a trustee, not as an owner. The minute you think of yourself as an owner, then the problem starts. You're a trustee. You have been given something as a trust, and you must hold it, you must make it grow. Then only it will endure. Otherwise, it will not endure. I want to jump a little now in Sundram Fasteners. In any management, there are 4 things that are very important. I have already touched on 2, but I'll touch on the other 2. First is vision. Where do you want to go? You must have a reasonably clear idea where do you want to go. I'm not saying that you must know exactly where you're going to be 50 years from now, but say 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Where do you want to be? It's not all the time possible for the chief executive to have this vision by himself. He is not a god. He is not a visionary all the time. But he listens. He listens to his competitors. He listens to his colleagues. He listens to his works, employees. He listens to the government. He reads newspapers. Then he synthesizes all these voices into a vision. And to say, okay, I think that this is where the company ought to go. This is the worthwhile vision for the company. And once you have the vision established, then the next step is to communicate that vision. As I told you, communication is a very, very important tool for building on that vision. And there is a famous saying of how to communicate, that you communicate and you communicate and you communicate, and when you are really tired of communicating, then you communicate more. There is really no substitute to this. Tireless, long, arduous, sustained communication. I remember when I was the president of CII in 1987-88, I had traveled the length and breadth of the country, starting from Srinagar down to Madurai, from Guwahati to Rajkot. I must have covered something like 70, 80 cities in India. Always talked on quality, productivity, customer service, HRD, exports. All the time to every audience. I've had audience which consists of just 3 people. I've had audience which consists of 2,000 people. But over and over and over and over again, the same thing, that India can be a competitive economy. I believe in it. I believe in this kind of repetitive communication. And as I said, as you communicate more and more of the same values, then you build trust. The fourth component of this is that you must set milestones, not exaggerated milestones or extended milestones, but milestones which can be achieved with a stretch. That only the management can decide what is a stretched milestone. And every milestone must be achieved, because the employees must feel that you belong to a winning company. Everybody wants to belong to a winning team. And the winning team can only be created by winning goals. And the winning goals are important or syndicated by establishing goals that are stretched yet achievable. This is a very fine balance, and I think the more you achieve goals, in tune with your vision, the more the employees will believe in the company. You take some of the milestones in Sundram Fasteners. ISO 9000 is just ISO 9000. Okay, we can say ISO 9000 was practiced by TVS back in the 1940s. It was. All the ingredients of ISO 9000, as I had pointed out, was already there in TVS. But why did we go for ISO 9000? Because it was a vision. It was part of the vision of the company to become a systematic company which will not only do things systematically, but be perceived as doing things systematically. So Sundaram Fasteners was the first company in the entire India to get ISO 9000. We started ISO 9000 somewhere around 1987, and we got ISO 9000 in 1990, and there was nobody in India who knew anything about ISO 9000 at that time. So we had to get an auditor from England to audit Sundaram Fasteners. And he came with a whole bunch of papers called non-compliance papers. He said it's the first company, I heard it's the first company in India, so I packed more sheets than normal of non-compliance because I was expecting a company which have a lot of holes which I had to point out, so I will need more copies of non-compliance certificates. But he did not use a single one. Now, what I'm saying is that is a major milestone for Sundaram Fasteners. The people were so proud that they belong to Sundaram Fasteners. You take TPM, again the same thing. It's again a systematic way of doing things over and over again. And again, TVS was the first, Sundaram Fasteners was the first engineering company in entire India to get the TPM Excellence Award back in 1992. 1995. You were the first one to reach the goal. It was a stretched goal, but you met it anyway. You take the GM rat cap experiment. There's always a saying that if you want to train yourself, you have to have an adversary who is better than you. You must seek out customers who are really demanding, who make your life miserable. Don't go in for easy customers. They don't teach you anything. Don't go in for forgiving customers. Don't go in for customers who say, yes, I understand your problem. Get customers who say, I don't care a damn. I don't understand your problems. I don't want to understand your problems. You told me you will do it, you have to do it. I don't care. Only those customers are your friends, not the guy who says, yes, I understand. I know, we also have had similar problems. It's like, the old days, it doesn't happen thankfully nowadays, but the old days you went to airport and the plane was supposed to take off at 7 o'clock. It doesn't take off till 9:30. Nobody makes an announcement. And everybody is sitting there very patiently reading a book. And then somebody asks the staff what's happening. I think that staff says, I think there is a technical problem. Then everybody says, yeah, there's a technical problem. And keeps reading the book. That way we are a very forgiving society, much to our own detriment. We forgive a lot of things. We forgive a lot of things that ought not to be there in a society. Because we are brought up in that kind of thing. Yeah, I know, we understand. You have a problem. Yes, I understand. But you never grow in that kind of circumstance, that kind of environment. So when we first went to General Motors, to be very frank with you, we knew nothing about making a radiator cap. We had never made a radiator cap. We didn't know what a radiator cap was. We went with the idea that this is good for our export, this is good for our public image, and this is good experience for us. If we can pull it off with General Motors, we can pull it off anywhere else. And the accounts department gave me a set of figures which showed me a profit figure of 1% on this venture. So my general manager came to me and said that it looks like it's 1% margin. It can go this way, that way. What do we do? So I remember telling him, doesn't matter. We just write it off as experience. If we don't make money, fine. We'll just write it off. If we make money, we'll consider it as a bonus. But this is a learning experience. You will get a chance to learn how to do international business, how to do global business, how to meet 0 ppm standards, how to get into the big league. And you will be surprised. I mean, I'm not casting this as aspersion to the accounts department, but we ended up making 25% margin. There's so much of buffer built in, you know how the accounts department is. There's so much of buffer built in that in spite of their best efforts to show less profit, they showed 25%. And we learned how to make a radiator cap. We have now supplied close to about 70 million radiator caps to General Motors. 70 million. We average about 6 million a year. We haven't had a single rejection to this date. Not a single rejection. And we have, General Motors gave us 5 years in running the best of the best suppliers award. And they told that if Asian companies or other companies could be, they have 30,000 suppliers. And they chose only 100 suppliers to be given Best of the Best Suppliers Award. And Sundaram Fasteners was one of them. What I'm trying to say is that if you believe that it can be done, and if you pull off something like this, then you got a team which will not be daunted by anything. I mean, you can then tell the team that, let's go and get heaven on earth. They will go and get the heaven on earth because it can be done. Finally, you have to do it systematically, and it can be done. So what is the vision of Sundaram Fasteners today? Of course, we had a lot of problems. I mean, I am not saying that it was all honky-dory. It was all hallelujah, start right from the beginning. As you know, the government always tried to see that we never grew. Every growth, there was an expansion problem. You had to go to the government to get permission. You had to go to Delhi. You had to answer questions. For every equipment bought, you had to justify why it was bought. And when we wanted to expand in Madras, they said, no, you had to go to a backward area. So I went to Delhi. They said that you go to Himachal Pradesh, because Narayan Dutt Tiwari came from Himachal Pradesh. So we said, no, we don't want to go anywhere. We don't want to expand. So we waited for 2 years, and then we put up a plant in Ramnath district in Madurai. So, I mean, the kind of harassment that Sundaram Fasteners has gone through from the government, due to the government or through the government, is just incalculable. I always tell myself that I belong to the lost generation, not LAST, LOST, lost generation. Because I always think if I have had, in Sundaram Fasteners had this kind of environment back in 1960s and 70s and 80s, how much more we could have achieved. We were running with shackles around our ankles, with a big iron ball trailing behind us. That brings me to another point. So if you can build a company like Sundaram Clayton or Sundaram Fasteners or Wheels India with that kind of detrimental government, imagine what you can build with your kind of environment today in TVS Electronics. I mean, you must be flying. I mean, you must be, you are free birds. We were all caged, and we were fluttering around in the cage, thinking we were flying. And finally, when we were released in 1991, you had no idea what joy there was in flying into the blue sky, finding your own way wherever you wanted to go. I mean, it was a new experience. And for me, it was unthinkable that you could do things without asking for government's permission. You could import equipment, you could sell anywhere you want. All I did was that when I first put up this China plant, we'll go into production in May. I never went to the government. I just wrote a check. When I bought the plant in England, I just wrote a check. I never went to the government. I mean, these were unthinkable. It would have never come. I mean, it would have never come to pass if I had wanted to put up a China plant or buy a British plant. Government would have never given me permission anyway. in those days. So where does Sundram Fasteners want to go now? One of the advantages Sundram Fasteners has, which many of the TVS companies did not have, but is now beginning to have, is that we don't have joint venture partners. A joint venture partner is, in my opinion, to put it very mildly, is a drag, because he's got a different agenda. He has come to India to make money in India. He's not interested in letting you make money outside India. C.K. Prahalad used to say, joint venture partner is like two people in the same bed but different dreams. So we were always very lucky that we did not initially because we were so small, we did not have joint venture partners. But after 1970s, out of conviction, we did not have joint venture partners. We got all our technology by various other means. We employed people, we employed consultants, we bought technology, we worked with universities, all kinds of things. We acquired technical know-how, paid technical know-how fees, but we never had a joint venture partner. So all decisions were made here. You wanted to go to China, you went to China. You didn't want to go to China, you want to go to Madagascar, you went to Madagascar. There was nobody really stopping you. It was all your own priorities. I personally feel that all independent, good, value-driven Indian companies can become multinationals. I'm not saying that only by becoming a multinational company you can be a good company. I'm not saying that at all. But if your dream is to become a multinational company, then it can be done by an Indian company. Sundram Fasteners wants to be a multinational company because we feel that for a long, long time India has been ignored by the world. And in order to make the world take cognizance of India, you need to have presence where you can show to the world that you are as good, if not better, as anybody else who operates in the world economy. It is with this sole reason, plus the opportunities that exist elsewhere. I mean, I see great opportunity in outsourcing into India. The manufacturing outsourcing is just beginning. It will build itself into a tremendous crescendo. It will build itself into a tidal wave. And we want to be there at that time to take advantage of that tidal wave. And it cannot be done just by sitting in India. You need to have beachheads all over the world where you can reach the customer just 1 hour drive, where you can say that I am here, I'll give you technical support, I'll give you design support, I'll see that everything happens in India, everything happens in China, whatever, and see that your ambition for global outsourcing is met. All these are all part of the puzzle. I mean, Sundram Fasteners does not go to China because China looks interesting. There are very important strategic considerations for going into China. If you take automotive companies in the United States today, they want to outsource mainly from two places, or they will outsource. I mean, today they outsource from Poland and Czechoslovakia and places like that, but that will all die down because Poland and Czechoslovakia are very fast gaining parity with the Western Europe. So mainly there will be two countries, China and India. People talk about Thailand. Thailand is too small. Same thing with Indonesia or Malaysia. They are all too small. They cannot generate the kind of revenue that India and China can generate. So if they want to buy from India and China, it makes a lot of sense to be in both countries. Then you can say, okay, you want to buy from China, we are there. You want to buy from India, you're here. Plus, the Chinese automotive industry is growing very fast, so you want to be a part of it. Why do we want to be in England? Because you need a European presence. Why England and not Germany? Because you speak English. And it's very simple. And because this company which we bought, 90% of the clientele is in Europe, like DAF and Volvo and MAN and all the other guys, good guys. They say good guys because they buy from us. So it's very important. Tomorrow we'll go to United States. The day after tomorrow we'll probably go to Brazil. Because I can see the world turning to India. So before they turn and come to India and get disappointed, it's better that you're there and say, okay, I am here. You want to come to India, I'm here. That's how the cookie crumbles in being a multinational. I'm not saying that we'll succeed everywhere. It does not matter. We want to succeed. Even if we don't succeed in one or two places, we would have learned a lot of things, learned a lot. Otherwise, we will just be sitting at home and not doing anything. I just want to leave one thought with you, that there are a lot of people who come, who are NRI Indians, who come to India. A lot of people have told me also, saying, India should get its act together and you should have better roads and your immigration should be better. Why are you having drinking water problems? You should sort that out. Your government must be less corrupt. You must get your act together. And they stay for 2 months and then they go back. I asked myself, why do you come and make these comments? What have you contributed to all this? If you are really interested in making India tick the way you want it to tick, why don't you stay here? I have, to be very frank with you, no respect whatsoever for people who make comments like that. Nothing. Of course I know I must get my act together as far as water supply is concerned, or road conditions are concerned, or immigration is concerned. I know it. But at least I'm staying here, not running away anywhere. I'm staying here and trying to see that these things, to my extent, to the extent possible, at least these things are realized. But you guys, you stay somewhere else and come and tell me that how bad India is and you go back. Can you think about it? So my final point is, if you want a better India, India is going to be built by Indians, by us, not by outsiders. Germany was built by Germans, Japan was built by Japanese, and India will be built only by Indians. Others can come and catalyze us, others can give us know-how, others can give us important leads, but the basic brickwork, basic value systems, basic vision, basic infrastructure building, basic edifice, the workforce, all will have to be Indians. Only India can do this. It can only be built by Indians. It cannot be built by others. So to think that foreign direct investment will be the panacea for all evil, I think is a very short-sighted and really abdicating your responsibility towards building your own country. It will not take you anywhere. I can go on for another hour, but I won't. I think it's better that, not bad, yeah, finished on time, exactly 1 hour. I think it will be better that you now ask me questions and I'll try and answer to the best of my ability, whatever doubts you may have in your mind or whatever explanations you need. And I thank you for listening to me.